Hi everybody, Greg Rust and SpeedCafe.com's editorial director Andrew Van Leeuwen with you for this edition of the KTM Summer Grill. We've been talking to all sorts of people from the world of motorsport over summer. Today we're delighted to be joined by the General Manager of GM Racing. Chris Payne is on the line. G'day and welcome.
G'day Greg, g'day Andrew, thanks for having me.
It's great to get you on for a conversation. If you look back at 2023, what Brodie Kostecki achieved and the success of lots of the other Camaros out there, it was a great year for you guys, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, what a year, and I think it's interesting. Don't forget that it wasn't that long ago that I think some people were lamenting the fact that Supercars was becoming a bit boring, and didn't Gen 3 change that in a hurry?
Yeah, obviously a super successful year for the Camaro and its first year in Supercars with the Gen 3 package. There has, obviously, we can't shy away from that, there's been this ongoing parity issue. How frustrating has it been when you're having this great success to have that sort of undercurrent of debate over the parity in the background?
Yeah, has been somewhat frustrating, and I feel for the teams involved because there's been so much work and effort applied. And if you roll back to Newcastle when the cars first hit the track, and the anticipation and the work that had gone into getting the cars to track, we all watched, I guess, nervously as they made their first laps in the practice and the qualifying. And to get through the season the way that we have, both on the Ford and the GM side, with such reliability of the cars, has been sensational. But anybody in the sport wants to win on a level playing field, and that's Supercars' responsibility to execute that. On our side, the homologation team and the work done by 888 and KRE Engines has been outstanding, and they'll continue to represent us in that space as we go to the next phase now of the testing to really paritize the cars with that world best practice activity that's going on right now in North Carolina at Winship.
You mentioned KRE. I mean, Kenny Mack really has looked like a superstar this year because those Chev motors have been fantastic and so reliable. Apart from, I think, Andre had an issue at Bathurst, Andre Heimgartner. Other than that, like, that motor really has been a success story.
It certainly has, and the platform that it comes off is part of our Chevrolet Performance Catalogue, and we're really, really proud of our association with KRE and with Ken and his team for seeing through the season with such incredible reliability. But it was part of the package. You know, the cars came out of the blocks, they looked great, they sounded great, the reliability was there, and we had close racing, and I think the fans responded. You know, they came to the sport like never before. We saw record or near record crowds at the big events like the Gold Coast and Bathurst and Adelaide, and it was just really pleasing to see a resurgence in the popularity of supercars on the back of Gen 3.
We're talking to Chris Payne, the General Manager of Chevrolet Racing, on this edition of the Summer Grill. Chris, the variety of success across the different Camaro teams, when you look at it, it wasn't just the story of Brodie Kostecki and Erebus, and we know how well credentialed the Red Bull or 888 organisation is. I mean, there was success for Matt Stone Racing, podiums for Brad Jones Racing, and more, wasn't there?
Absolutely, and it's really pleasing to see because each of those teams are invested with their partners to deliver on the track. And it was after so many years of trying, both in the Holden era before now, to get that success on the track with all the Chevrolet racing teams was really pleasing. And to see the younger drivers coming through and accepting the car for what it is. And on the Ford side, I see some of the more experienced drivers like David Reynolds, and on our side with Team 18 and Charlie's squad with Mark Winterbottom come through and get wins as well. So it's a very diverse field, more drivers, I think, winning and getting podiums than ever before in the history of the sport. And it just draws more eyeballs to the sport and more attendance and viewership on the broadcast, I think, for the future.
Ford, has their Australian motorsport department. They've been quite visible this year, obviously, because they've had to. They've been involved in this parity fight and needed that visibility to try and get the changes made. You're a bit more in the background, I guess. Can you sort of talk about what the actual GM involvement at Supercars level is with the teams?
Yeah, well, I look after the overarching program, and I'm supported in that capacity with Steve Byrne, who's our Gen 3 program manager. we work closely behind the scenes with the teams. We do tend to be a little bit under the radar in that respect, and we have our own commercial arrangements with each team. We also work closely with our counterparts in North America. Jim Campbell in particular, the Vice President of GM Performance and Motorsports, as well as Supercars on the technical side. So yes, we may not be as vocal and visible, but when you're on the winning side, if I can say that, you don't necessarily have to be. But as we've seen in the last few rounds of the season, that very, very fine line between the parity of the two cars is there. And like everybody in the sport, we're very below average when it comes to losing. So we want to keep a close eye on that going into the 24 season as well.
Chris, there's a great poster over your shoulder as we chat with you about Holden winning Bathurst. It's just over 12 months since we farewelled Commodore. We're now 12 months into the new Gen 3 era with Camaro versus Mustang. How have fans that have had that kind of traditional tribal love of Commodore and so on warmed to the Camaro? And are there things as a sport that we need to do more of, perhaps, to sell this message around these new cars?
Yeah, it's a great question, Greg, because we're great observers of the fans when we go to the track. And from a personal perspective, I've got to say, I feel as if the demographics of the fan base looked quite different to me this year than in previous years.
Wow.
It sounds a little odd, but one of the very noticeable things to me was the fact that a lot of the fans were turning up in, let's call it civilian clothes. They weren't wearing the branded T-shirts that they were in the past. In the Holden era, you could look down the back of the paddock and it was just a sea of red. And so it should be. After 50 years of success on the track, for Holden, we had to unfortunately draw a line under that and try to move forward into this new era of Chevrolet racing. And we were very determined, and I think it's been achieved, to be able to continue the brand battle, that raged for decades between Ford and GM, Ford and Holden, now into this new era with Chevrolet. And the fan base seems to be shifting, seems to be changing. And based on the feedback and information we're getting from Supercars, we're seeing a more diverse group of people coming, more families, more females attending and watching the sport. One of the great challenges, I think, going forward is for us to get more diversity into the sport, into the management, into the technical side, and indeed into the driving, ultimately in the Supercars sport.
We see that, through the AC Delco arm of GM, a lot of support for young drivers. You've got Alice Buckley there is part of that. It's almost become like a junior program you've got with the AC Delco support. Is part of that looking to try and harness some more diverse talent and bring them through the ranks?
Yeah, it has been, Andrew, and it's a byproduct of what we're trying to do with AC Delco. So our business in Australia now is built around 7 brands, really, and I'll list them real quick for you. GMSV, of course, is the most visible, which is bringing to Australia and New Zealand the best niche vehicles from the GM portfolio in right-hand drive, currently the Silverado and Corvette. Our GM Trade program, the Chevrolet Performance brand, selling crate engines to the niche enthusiast market. Chevrolet Racing, taking over the legacy of Holden and Holden Motorsport. And more recently, we've announced the introduction of Cadillac to Australia as well. So AC Delco is a really important growth brand for us for parts and service in Australia and New Zealand. And for us, the message is communicating the fact that AC Delco parts are for all makes and models. In the past, we did a terrific job of educating enthusiasts and DIY customers that AC Delco parts were only for Holdens. And I think a key part of that goes way back in history to the fact that AC, before it came AC Delco, was on the Des West Peter Brock Monaro that won Bathurst in 1969. And it was on every single major Holden race car from 1969 until now, and it's still on the Red Bull Ampol racing cars. But we are looking to grow the brand, and one of the ways that we do that is through other forms of motorsport. So you mentioned Toyota 86. We've been involved in that sport for a few years now with Jared Hughes, who's done very, very well, and we've supported him since the age of 10. And weekend just gone by, at the time of recording this, he was competing in the TA2 series at Calder in a Mustang, and that was a way of us really shouting quite loudly that AC Delco parts are definitely not just for Holdens, because we're on a Ford.
Yeah.
And he won every race it was on the Saturday in the Mustang. So he's one to watch, I think, for the future. You mentioned Ellis Buckley, very, very talented young 16-year-old Queenslander who's competing in Toyota 86. We're on board with her, as we have been with Aaron Borg, who's won the Super Ute Series for the last 2 years running in an Isuzu D-Max.
It's great that you're shining a little bit of a light there on young talent coming through. You must be enormously excited at the same time at a Supercars level of this next wave, if you like. Shane Van Gisbergen is off to the United States, but at the same time, we're thrilled about the likes of a Brock Feeney, the always smiling Will Brown headed to Triple Eight, and we've got this brand new champion with an amazing story in Brody Kostecki, don't we?
Yeah, we certainly do, and we're looking forward to the future. I think all of those things add to an exciting future for Supercars in the next couple of years. And excuse me, the work that Shane did, particularly blazing the way with NASCAR, is just changed the relationship between NASCAR and Supercars going forward, and Brody in his footsteps as well. And when I think all of us were watching Shane heading toward victory at the Chicago street race last year, things were never going to be the same. Then the relationship between NASCAR and Supercars has been such that I think it will just grow and grow and grow in different areas, where I believe that the viewership now of Supercars broadcast online digitally is enormous by the North American fan base. And there's this exchange of technologies, and the fact that you've got Erebus and Barry Ryan leading the way there with Richard Childress, and more work to be done there with Brody going to the States potentially next year as well. So the exchange of drivers, of wildcard appearances, all sorts of opportunities between those two series is very, very exciting. And the young drivers form a really, really important part of that.
I guess that's particularly exciting for yourself when you're working for a brand that is involved in both of those series as well. Like, that's what a fantastic way to, even from a marketing perspective, to sort of cross-pollinate what's happening in each of the two countries.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know yet where that's going to land, Andrew, but there's all sorts of opportunities for us between GM North America and here in Australia to really form a closer bond between NASCAR and Supercars.
It's a kind of delicate discussion, but naturally Parity is one that fans will want to tackle here. Obviously, a lot of work being done during the off season in relation to the cars. Just in a general sense, are you confident with the way things are going in this regard for 2024?
Yeah, we're very confident, and the work that's been done, well, now for the best part of 2 years, leading up to the commencement of the season by Triple Eight, by KRE, and led by Jeremy Moore, has just been outstanding. The amount of work has been enormous, and we rolled out the car. Triple Eight rolled out the car in October of 21 at Bathurst. The car that we raced in 23 was essentially unchanged from the prototype that was revealed at that time, and it was designed around the rule set. And we've been chasing that parity dilemma all season, and I don't think anybody in the sport would have anticipated the way it's had to roll out. It's provided a level of controversy, if you like, but not a good one, and not one that any one of us would have wanted to see. But the work that's going on over the next few weeks leading into the start of the season in February at Windshear is critically important, and it sets the new benchmark, I think, as a world-class approach that will be required to be adopted in the future for any kind of step change in the sport. For example, if another OE manufacturer came into the sport, they would need to go through that process with the other silhouettes which are racing in the series as well. So we're really pleased that Triple Eight are able to represent us to get that piece of work done, and we're confident that we'll come out with the cars aligned and ready to go racing in February of next year. Speaking
of other silhouettes, we know that the Camaro, there is there is an end date for the Camaro in terms of its road production. Supercars is committed to keeping it going until I think it's the end of 2025 season at the very least. This maybe comes back to the relationship you do have with the guys in North America, because they'll need something else to go racing in NASCAR with as well. Can you give us any hints? Do you have any idea of where it could go in terms of a body shape in the future?
Yes. Our car will race through the 25 season as well. And when we made the announcement about the end of production for the Camaro road car earlier in 23, that's due to finish up in Q1 of 24, the Generation 6 Camaro. The statement that was made at that time and the one that I'll give today was that this is not the end of the Camaro story. So we don't have any information to release on that today. We don't talk about future road car programs like we don't talk about future race car programs, but we're committed to the sport for the longer term. And I think your observation, Andrew, about there being a synergy going forward between Supercars and NASCAR in relation to closer work in respect to the design work of the cars is very much on the cards. When the car was designed, there's a young man called Adam Barry in North America who designed the Camaro for us for Supercars, and he's a very passionate designer who behind the scenes has worked on the Camaro road car for I think the best part of 10 or 15 years perhaps. He's designed every single Camaro that's gone to market, and when we presented him with the opportunity to design the supercar, he just put down the mouse from designing the Camaro for NASCAR, and he relished that opportunity to be able to make the car as close as possible to the appearance of the road car, which is why we got what we got. And as we know, there are some not compromises, but some differences in the appearance of the NASCAR silhouette versus the road car. So our car looks very, very real. It's probably a 98% percentile representation of what the road car is, which is why I think people have warmed to it so much. And the same on the Ford side. The two cars look fantastic and they sound great. The racing's been close, and yeah, we're committed to it for some time to come.
Can we end this by looking forward to 2024? Probably obvious that you want to defend the crown. Maybe the real question is how difficult you think that mission is going to be.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a challenge. It seems that Erebus Motorsport have found the secret sauce, but Triple Eight will, they'll want to bounce back. Like I said before, they, of anybody, are very below average losers, and they'll equip, they'll reset, they'll be ready to go, as will all the Camaro-based teams. I have no doubt about that. But I think that the driver familiarity with the cars and the crew's familiarity with the car after a year under their belt of racing will be such that you'll see closer racing. I think that race will continue to promote the sport really well, and hope that we can see more broadcast, more attendance to the major meetings and so forth. And it'll be a tough one, but I think it'll be one to watch.
Thank you very much for talking to us on this edition of the KTM Summer Grill. We wish you and the team all the very best for 2024.
Thank you very much, and all the best to your viewers as well.
There he is, Chris Payne from Chevrolet Racing. Don't forget, of course, to tune back in to speedcafe.com tomorrow morning to see who our next special guest is right here on the KTM Summer Grill.
You could be a winner each episode of the Summer Grill. KTM are giving you the chance to win a bar stool, a mug, and this race-inspired clock as well. So there's more good reasons to tune in and hear from some of the stars of world motorsport here as a part of the KTM Summer Grill. All you got to do is click on the link below, fill in your details, and you could be in the running to win.